this live stream, I may invite and encourage a certain kind of mantra, a certain kind of declaration of the heart, of the body, of the mind. You may repeat after me. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. Sitting here, turning my mind towards awareness, I feel, I know, I experience that there is nothing more important than just being where I already am. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I am solid. I am free in the ultimate. I dwell. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have nowhere to go. I have nothing to do. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. There are beautiful trees within the island of myself. There are beautiful flowers where birds sing, where rivers flow. Breathing out, I feel safe. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. Breathing out, I feel safe. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. There are beautiful trees within the island. There are bluebirds and water. There are trees, sunshine, and fresh air. Breathing out, I feel safe. I enjoy going back to my island. Use your own eyes to see. Use your own ears to listen. If you're interested in this, you'll need to stay tuned. It's something that I think about the context of this environment, this space, this live stream. And without the internet and without live streaming like this, it would basically be like me sitting in the meditation hall, at my temple, the temple that I run, the temple or meditation center that I manage, and kind of it being on the, like the side of a busy street. And I would be sitting there practicing meditation or like being prepared to answer questions. And we would have kind of, the regular people who come to join in for meditation. Maybe they live there, or anyways, they show up regularly. And then in the midst of that, there would be a constant flow of random, aggressive, old, young, Christian, atheist, non-religious people just coming in and kind of talking, sometimes throwing insults, sometimes being aggressive, sometimes even harassing the other meditators. So it's really my responsibility to bring like my wholeness, my fullness of presence to this, so that we can feel the intimacy and the aliveness of life, as it is. Because we can say, we can put this into a box and say, this is a guy live streaming, on YouTube from Vietnam or what have you, from the White Space studio, which will soon be defunct. But what this really is a mind-to-mind connection. So I am a emissary of your own mind. This is your mind. That is my mind, or the mind. So sometimes I can kind of key into that. I can kind of feel that. It almost, kind of feels surreal, like I'm, not just like I'm watching myself, but like I'm with myself. Seeing through the screen. And I do hope that some people can also feel that energy, that presence, that connection, that depth, so that we can, all of us, be inspired to, even if it's just a little bit more than usual in this period of time, having that sincerity, having that kind of seriousness or consistency in practicing the meditation and in approaching the meditation, the way of being meditative. You know, my view about making a path, you know, a Buddhist path or a spiritual path or a religious path, or it just doesn't seem as viable, and it doesn't seem to have as much efficacy as this heart open, moment by moment awareness, and returning to that and abiding in that and staying close to that whenever possible, you know, in a way that doesn't really need to be described or formulated. And yeah, I'm interested in all that stuff because I'm interested in running a monastery or running a meditation center or supporting community, you know, just to plant some grapefruit trees and durian trees and stuff like that. That seems to be something that I'm interested in. And so that requires a lot of forms, a lot of structure. But there's also something kind of divine in just showing up and just being here. And this not being about anything. This not being about any thoughts about anything. You know, and I think that's fantastic. Because I spend time, you know, online answering people's questions and hosting spaces like these. There's a lot of suffering in the world. There's a lot of confusion. And this is meant to be a hub or a crystalline structure of not being confused by confusion, not being angered by anger. Just setting the mind down, settling the case. Settling the case of this life, this story, this narrative, this plan. As long as it helps you to be meditative, then just meditate with it. It's a really bad culture that modern social media has brought us into. And that's the culture of being a liker or a disliker. That's the culture of leaving comments, giving a comment, giving an opinion. And, you know, some opinions are nice, some opinions are mean. But this isn't really about giving your opinion or giving your comment. This is about coming back to center. And how fully, how deeply, how consistently can we come back to this center? And we're also, in a certain way, I mean, we see a lot of people in the world, or even in the chat, that are kind of like degenerates. But this way of being meditative or mindful and not attaching to anything is actually, we're working to address the degeneracy within us. How much time do we waste? How much negative, non-practical thinking do we get involved with? Awake, aware, beyond opinions. Shut up and listen. Or close your eyes and see. Your ignorance and attachment, your foolishness is deafening. So be deafened, be muted, be ended. Allow yourself to come to an end. Allow the story of your life to come to an end. That's what this is all about. Allowing the stories of our lives to once and for all come to an end. And when we come face to face with something that is beyond our understanding, we tend to revert back to a certain kind of way of reacting, way of responding. The ego asserts its importance. So here in this, don't let the ego assert any importance. Let the ego drop away into unknowing, into direct experiencing, into awareness without attachment, right here and now. You can use the mantra, I have arrived. I am home. In the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home. In the here and in the now. If you're dealing with ghosts, you're going to want to get a hat like this. No ghosts like this hat. They're not able to understand it. Welcome, Amanda. Cyrus, no possession, no ownership, no somebody who's doing something. This hat is not being worn by someone. These words are not being said by someone. This YouTube channel isn't owned by anyone. There's a lot of stupid people here, but those people don't actually exist. Just in appearance. So this is concerned with seeing through appearances. Seeing through our own stupidity and seeing through the stupidity of others. Seeing through both self and others. Come back to breathing. When we're thinking too much and when we're struggling to meditate, listen to the meditation of the heart. Listen to the meditation of the body, sitting upright. Listen to the meditation of the breathing happening. So we're breaking down, we're shaking up, we're dissolving this habituated idea of someone who's doing something. So it's just doing. It's just being mindful. It's just not being attached. You have to see for yourself what it is, Kayla. Don't let anybody else tell you what's right there in front of your face. So when a mother embraces their crying child, the preference would probably be for the child to not be crying. But the child is crying. And so the practice is to just embrace. In the same way, our meditation, our body is crying. Our mind is crying. Sometimes our life, our world, our environment is crying. So how can you embrace what is unconditionally, with kindness and with mindfulness? And when we need help, when we need direction, when we need support, we bring our attention to that breathing sensation. That very direct experience of breathing sensation is like the mother's arms, embracing everything. And an important thing to remember is that that crying helps us to remember to embrace. That suffering is encouraging us and driving us to act, to engage, to take care, to continue, to go deep. Who knows? Maybe something wonderful will happen. Maybe something miraculous will happen. Or maybe we will realize how miraculous this experience already is, how precious this experience already is. Maybe we will begin to know how little we know, while also accessing our inner capacity to endure, to be with suffering. Suffering is yesterday. Suffering is tomorrow. Plenty of suffering to go around here as well. So can we embrace suffering? Can we train? Can we cultivate? Can we develop that embracing of suffering here and now? Using these circumstances, using these conditions without attachment, just using them. In breathing, just breathing. In being aware of the whole body and mind, just being aware of the whole body and mind. You can also think of it like this is the very best way to waste our time. Meditation is the best waste of time. Trying to meditate is the best waste of time. So we bring our heart into meditation. We bring our whole body and mind, our whole life into meditation. And if we feel pain or uncomfortability, it's quite helpful because it gives us the chance to endure difficulty, to endure adversity without running away from it, without trying to avoid it. Well, you can think of it like there's good attachment and bad attachment. There's good deeds and there's bad deeds. But everybody dies. Whether you're a baby or an old person or young and healthy. So we're not using the power of karma as much as we are trying to align ourselves with the reality of impermanence. That's where detachment is. But detachment is not, you can't cultivate detachment. Detachment is like a result of wisdom, a result of insight. You know, that kind of instantaneous recognition of the way that things are. Or we get the message that everything in life is impermanent, that we are bound to get sick, to die, to go through old age. And we actually receive that message, and then we begin to do the work of seeing how to escape from suffering, which is really a kind of inner journeying of looking and being with what is already here. And through that, building up our concentration, building up our capacity to look directly at what is already here. to stare what is already here, right in the face. And then, sometimes it's not that you got some kind of, your girlfriend broke up with you, or you lost your job, or something like that. Sometimes your foot gets cut off. Sometimes they have to amputate your foot. And so nobody can give you your foot back. But you can learn by yourself, through yourself, to accept the way that things already are. This is not an intellectual view. Death doesn't have anything to do with what you think about it. Your reality is not based on thoughts. It's like saying the earth is based on thoughts, or the earth was created through thoughts. And then what it really gets down to is a slap in the face, a punch in the gut, and meditation or doing good deeds. So the Buddha taught that this life is suffering. Life is suffering. And that recognition of suffering, that daring to be with suffering, to face it, to see it as it is, that's what leads to the ending of suffering. So the bubbles or the lesions of depression, anxiety, these periods of depression, anxiety, anger, confusion, etc., that kind of come up in the brain are like pus-filled sacs. And when we try to avoid those pus-filled sacs, that suffering, it kind of pops and then spreads out through the rest of our brain and goes through our nervous system and our life, and it goes into everything. But when we can stop and see, it's just like a syringe of mindfulness that we stab into our own brains, and the detachment happens naturally. Because everything's impermanent, but because we're not supporting or involved with or seeing that impermanence, it can be solidified. So that's how you do it, Ashton. And it's just, how serious do you want to get about doing that? And when you confront suffering, when these situations happen, anger, delusion, depression, anxiety, stress, how much can you really sit down, cross your legs, and face it? And then the meditation is just, it's not tantric, it's not esoteric, it's not a special thing. I mean, you're just sitting down and you're really concentrating and you're facing everything with your breathing, And the directness of the truth, or the ultimacy, the totality of the truth, like from the Buddha about enlightenment, it doesn't really apply to anything. The Buddha was homeless. The Buddha was a homeless, half-naked guy in India. You know, he didn't have property, he didn't have money, he didn't have, uh, fine clothing or luxurious environment. So in Buddhism, kind of a life situation, something coming out of nowhere and really impacting your life that shows you birth, shows you sickness, show, death, sickness, or old age. This is actually like a holy messenger, because it's pointing out, it's showing you that you keep distracting yourself again and again and again, but really at the end of the day you're going to have to deal with death of all your loved ones, of everything you hold on to, everything that you're attached to. You have to detach from the ideas that you have about yourself, Kayla. You have to step back from your ego narrative of yourself and the world. You have to develop the relationship with your heart, with your body, with your mind, when you're somewhat calm. What is developing that relationship? It means giving attention. It means giving time. It means giving space. You have to give space to be with yourself. That doesn't mean giving space to be in your LED room watching TV, playing video games. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but when we have a situation like the one you're describing, we actually need to step back. We need to take medicine. We need to take the medicine of the way of ending suffering, the way of facing suffering. Right? So there's 4 noble truths in Buddhism. There is suffering. There's a cause of suffering, which is our constant desire. So when we don't step back, when we don't stop and see and be, it means our entire lives are totally defined by compulsive desire. Compulsive pleasure seeking, compulsive pain avoidance, just like an animal. But we've got bigger brains than most animals. So when you constantly live like an animal, eventually you start to get panic attacks, etc. So that cause of suffering is actually our desire. So we need to bring in an element to our lives that's not about getting what we want and is not about avoiding what we don't want. And that is the action, that is the practice, that is the way of meditation. And that meditation life is kind of brought into this 8-fold path. Being a good person, practicing your meditation, being mindful, developing insight into the way that things actually are rather than the way that things appear to be. It's going to be interesting as more fake media, fake news, fake movies, fake TV shows, fake videos, fake audios come out through AI. Because if you don't have insight, if you don't have a relationship with the way that things actually are, you're just being manipulated all the time by appearances. And that means that demons and ghouls and unsavory spirits and entities from lower realms can influence you, can get involved with you. Or worst yet, you'll become one of them. And America is one of the worst places in the world for, you said it, this kind of mess. For these kind of spirits and entities and beings that are just deranged, ghoulish, freakish, out of control, anger junkies, delusion junkies, you know, bipolar, psychosis, greed, anger, and delusion. I mean, in a certain way, we all have these sufferings. But in American culture, I mean, it's a really, really out of control culture and society. So as an American, I've got my work cut out for me to see that culture, to see that reactivity, to see that negativity, to see that darkness within myself, and to be willing to transform it actively. There's no greater power than stopping. So the ghouls, the entities, the spirits of greed, anger, and delusion, vile creatures, they are forgiven in the face of stopping. Stopping and seeing, stopping and breathing, stopping and being. In such a way that's not about anyone, not about anything. In such a way that you become unreachable. In such a way that you can really practice breathing in. I go back to the island within myself. Breathing out, I feel safe. Breathing in, I come back to the island within myself. Breathing out, I feel safe. I enjoy going back to my island. Let's practice meditation together.
Welcome. We will begin the online meditation with Venerable Pomyansanim shortly. Before we proceed, we will meditate for a brief moment to calm our minds.
안녕하세요. 지난 한 주 동안 잘 지내셨습니까?
Hello, I hope you had a good week last week.
네. 봄에는 비가 자주 와줘야 이 곡식이 잘 자랄 수가 있습니다.
It's good to have frequent rains during spring to facilitate the farming, the growth.
비라는 것은 너무 안 와도 문제고 너무 많이 와도 문제입니다.
So rain is something that we can't have too much of or too little of. We need to have just right amount.
농사 짓는 사람에게 비는 이 사람에게 있어서의 사랑과 같은 것 같습니다.
To a farmer, rain is like love.
사랑이 너무 많으면 간섭이 되고 사랑이 너무 적으면 이렇게 외면이 되니까 우리는 사랑과의 관계에서 너무 이렇게 외면해도 안 되고 너무 집착해서 간섭해도 안 되지 않나 싶습니다.
In a way, too much love can lead to interference, but too little can lead to a sense of isolation. So love is something that we need in just the right amount.
네, 적당한 거리를 두고 촉촉이 이렇게 비가 내리는 것처럼 은근한 그런 관심과 또 지속적인 그런 관심이 필요하다 싶습니다.
So I think we need a reasonable, the right amount of attention, as if the rain, steady rain, kind of wets the ground through in a gentle way. We need that gentle attention throughout as well. That's sustainable.
저희들이 하는 이 명상도 또 비슷합니다.
This goes to meditation.
조급해서 막 이렇게 애써도 안 되고
You can't feel hurried and try to do too much.
또 안 된다고 포기하고 게을러서도 안 됩니다.
But you can't give up because it's not going well, or can't be lazy about doing it.
편안한 가운데
In midst of relaxation,
꾸준히 해나가야 합니다.
you have to be consistent and constant.
이렇게 명상을 한번 해보겠습니다.
Let us do meditation.
네, 질문을 받겠습니다.
With that, let's go to questions.
I seek to overcome my trauma through my practice. Should I focus on the trauma during my bowing in meditation, or should I just try to clear my mind?
수행을 통해서 트라우마를 극복하려고 합니다. 명상과 절을 하는 동안 트라우마에 집중해야 하나요? 아니면 마음을 비우려고 해야 하나요?
트라우마에 집중하다 보면 과거의 생각에 빠지기가 쉽고 또 마음을 비운다 하면 마음을 어떻게 비우느냐 비운다는 생각을 할 뿐이지 마음은 비우고 싶다고 비워지는 것이 아닙니다.
So if you focus on your trauma, then you might fall into the trap of chasing after your past memories. However, if you want to clear your mind, clearing your mind is not something that happens with the intent of clearing your mind.
명상을 할 때는 과거에 어떤 생각이 떠오르더라도 그 생각에 관심을 두지 말고 다만 들숨과 날숨만 알아차립니다.
During meditation, no matter what kind of past memories come unbidden to you, you should not pay any attention or imbue them with any meaning. Just let them be and focus rather on your
트라우마가 생각나면서 우리는 거기에 사로잡혀서 빠지기 쉽고 그러면 이렇게 분노라든지 여러 가지 두려움이라든지 여러 가지 감정이 일어나게 됩니다.
However, if the past memories of traumas come to you, then you fall into the trap of being trapped inside that memory, and that triggers emotional reactions like anger, fear.
과거의 상처가 지금도 상처가 된다는 얘기입니다.
Basically, past traumas are continuously hurting you today.
근데 이제 그 트라우마의 그런 사건들이 떠오르더라도 거기에 관심을 두지 말고 마음을 편안히 한 가운데 다만 호흡을 알아차리고 이렇게 계속 연습을 하게 되면 우리가 트라우마를 생각해도 이 감정이 그냥 과거의 그런 사건이 기억만 되지 감정은 전혀 일어나지 않는다면 그게 치유가 된 것입니다.
However, if you think about the memories of the past trauma, but you continue to practice, not imbue them with any meaning, but observing them as they go by while you're focused on your breath only, eventually you get to the state in which past memories just become dry memories without eliciting any emotion. At that point, you will have been healed from your past trauma.
그러니까 과거를 기억하면 트라우마하고 일반적인 것 차이는 트라우마는 과거를 기억하면 감정이 동시에 일어납니다. 근데 치유가 되면 과거를 단지 기억할 뿐이지 아무런 감정적인 격동이 일어나지 않는다.
The fundamental difference between past trauma and just past memories is that with a trauma, if you recall the memories associated with that trauma, it elicits an emotional reaction, a strong emotional reaction.
그렇기 때문에 감정이 흔들림이 없는 상태로 오직 호흡을 알아차리게 되면 그것이 지속이 되면 자연스럽게 트라우마가 치유가 된다는 거예요.
However, if you get to the state in which you can recall memories of the past trauma, but your emotions don't tremble, they don't agitate, then you have healed from the hurts associated with that trauma.
절을 하면서 트라우마를 치료하는 것은 조금 이치가 다릅니다.
The principle of trying to heal your trauma through bowing is a little different, however.
예를 들어서 부모님의 어떤 어릴 때 학대나 또는 부모님의 이혼이나 이런 것들에 의해서 만약에 트라우마가 있어서 부모를 생각하면 바로 분노가 일어나거나 슬픔이 일어난다고 하면
Say that you were abused as a child by your parents or your divorce of your parents kind of affected you very deeply. So when you recall or remember about your parents, when you think about them, there's a degree of anger or sadness.
하나는 부모의 입장을 생각해 봅니다. 그때 어머니가 아버지와 갈등 때문에 얼마나 힘들었을까. 자기 삶이 너무나 힘드니까 그냥 화를 냈던 거고 그냥 그것이 나는 어머니의 상태를 모르니까 상처가 됐구나. 이렇게 그때의 어머니를 내가 입은 상처에 집중하지 않고 그때 어머니, 그때 아버지, 그때 그 사람의 마음을 이해하고 그것을 내가 알아차리는 거예요.
One is you think back and look at this. We look at the situation not centered from your own hurt or your own trauma, but centered from the perspective of the parents, and think how difficult it must have been for my mother to have to go through that, to have to deal with a husband that doesn't agree with her, and because you were ignorant of the difficulties they were facing at that time, try to relook at the situation from their point of view.
그렇게 어머니의 마음, 부모의 마음을 깊이 이해하면 그럴 수도 있었겠다. 이렇게 깊이 이해하면 내 상처가 치유가 됩니다.
And if you really relook at the situation, re-examine it with a deep understanding of their perspective as they were facing the situation, it will automatically heal your trauma.
그때 이제 제가 어렸어. 어머니를 그 마음을 이해하지 못하고 나한테 야단치는 것만 갖고 제가 어머니를 미워했습니다. 지금 생각해보니 내가 너무 몰랐습니다. 아이고 어머니 미워해서 죄송합니다. 이렇게 참여를 합니다.
So at that point, you tell yourself, I was too young to understand. I wasn't fully there to really understand the difficulties you were going through. So I apologize for my ignorance at that time, for not fully trying to be understanding, and I was just focusing on my hurt, the anger that I saw in you. And that's how you repent.
그러니까 어머니가 나쁜 사람이 아니라 내가 어리석어서 그 마음을 이해하지 못했다. 관점을 이렇게 가지면 내 상처가 치유가 됩니다.
So it wasn't that my mother was a bad person. It's that I was too young and too unknowing to be able to understand fully what she was going through. And if you shift your perspective like that, it allows you to heal your own mind.
다른 방법은 어머니에 대한 감사 기도를 하는 겁니다.
Another method is for you to offer prayers of gratitude to your mom.
나를 낳고 나를 키우고 한다고 얼마나 고생하셨느냐 감사합니다 이런 마음을 내는 거예요.
So the mind you're trying to exhibit here is that thank you, mom, for having born me and having raised me through such difficulties.
살기 힘드셔서 욕설을 하고 야단을 하고 했지만은 그래도 옷도 입혀주고 밥도 먹여주고 나를 학교 보내줬다. 아이고 감사합니다. 또 이혼을 했는데 얼마나 힘들었으면 이혼을 했겠느냐. 그러니까 그래도 내가 10살이 될 때까지 나를 위해서 키워놓고 이혼을 하셨다. 아이고 키운다가 얼마나 고생하셨습니까. 이렇게 감사 기도를 하는 겁니다.
Basically offer a prayer of gratitude. You have born me, you have raised me. You might have cursed at me, insulted me, abused me. However, you also did clothe me, fed me, sent me to school until I was 10 years old, for example, despite all the difficulties you were facing in your own life. So offering a prayer of gratitude for the things that she did for you.
그러니까 절을 하면서 트라우마를 치료하는 방법은 첫째가 이해, 두 번째가 감사. 그 이해와 감사를 내가 어려서 못해서 오히려 미워했다. 그거에 대한 나의 반성, 참회 이것이 절할 때 절하면서 트라우마를 치유하는 방법입니다.
So basically trying to heal your trauma through bowing, the first stage is a deep understanding and comes then a sense of deep gratitude that you were at that time too young to understand, too young to empathize with. And that's the basis of your kind of repentance or atonement for that time.
트라우마가 너무 심하면 일단 전문가의 치료, 병원 치료, 그것이 약물적이든 또는 심리 상담이든 치료를 받아야 된다.
However, if the trauma is too deep to begin with, you initially need some kind of medical help, professional help, whether it's through therapy or medication.
조금 이제 덜 강하면 이제 이렇게 절을 하면서 감사와 이해의 절을 하게 되면 치료가 됩니다.
But once you have, dealt with it a little bit, if it's less deep, then bowing based on sense of deep understanding and gratitude does help.
이렇게 좀 큰 상처들은 좀 원복 치료를 해놓고 그 다음에 명상을 해야 명상이 그 나머지 잔영을 없애는데 도움이 됩니다.
So with such deep trauma, you need that kind of more of an emergency type of treatment so that when you get into meditation, meditation can help you, can be effective in getting rid of the remnants of that hurt.
상처가 아주 깊은 거를 명상을 통해서 해결하려면 그걸 냉정하게 내려놓고 코끝에 집중해지지가 않습니다. 자꾸 거기에 감정적으로 끌려가기 때문에 그래서 스스로 이게 자제를 할 수가 없습니다.
If the trauma is too deep and the injury is too deep, it's very difficult during meditation for you not to focus and elicit emotional reaction. Self-control at that state is very difficult.
네, 다음 질문 받겠습니다.
With that, let's go to the next question.
What is the difference between being in a meditative state and the samadhi the Buddha entered?
명상에 드는 것과 부처님께서 선정해 드셨다의 선정과 어떻게 다른지요?
명상이라는 용어는 그냥 마음을 고요히 하는 일반적인 용어입니다.
Meditation is just a kind of regular word that speaks to the quieting of the mind.
선정에 들었다 하는 것은 이 불교적인 명상, 즉 바른 명상이라는 것이 하나 있고요. 두 번째는 그것이 아주 깊이 들었다는 게 있고, 세 번째는 분명히 깨어있다, 아주 소소 영역이 깨어있다, 이런 세 가지 정도가 결합해야 선정에 들었다 이렇게 말할 수 있습니다.
Being in samadhi, state of samadhi, there are three factors that go into that. One can be interpreted as being the right meditative state. Second is the very deep meditative state. And then at the same time, the third element is to be perfectly mindful or awake while being in this state. So it's a combination of these three kind of conditions that speak to being in samadhi.
네, 그러면 오늘 명상을 하겠습니다.
And with that, let's engage in meditation ourselves.
몸과 마음을 편안히 합니다.
Relax your body and mind.
한가한 마음을 갖습니다.
Kind of leisurely mind, an idle mind.
긴장하지도 말고 조급하지도 말고
Without tension, without urgency,
잘하려고 애쓰지도 말고
without trying too hard to be good.
그러니까 하기 싫어서 이렇게 게으르지도 말고
Without being lethargic or lazy because you don't want to do it.
편안한 가운데 꾸준히 해나갑니다.
In the midst of that relaxation and peace, you're being consistent and constant.
관심을 코끝에 둡니다.
And focus your attention on the tip of your nose.
코끝에 관심을 두면 저절로 숨이 들어가고 숨이 나오는 것을 알아지게 됩니다.
And when you shift your attention there, you automatically realize the breath.
숨이 들어갈 때 들어가는 줄 알고 나올 때 나오는 줄을 압니다.
And you are aware of the breath going in and going out.
머릿속에서 어떤 생각이 떠오르더라도 거기에 의미를 부여하지 말고 다만 들숨과 날숨을 알아차립니다.
Whatever thought comes unbidden to your head, do not imbue them with any meaning and just focus on the breath in and out.
나도 모르게 그런 떠오르는 생각들에 관심을 빼앗겼어. 숨을 알아차림을 놓치게 되면 놓친 줄을 알았어. 다시 관심을 곳곳에 두고 들숨과 날숨을 알아차립니다.
And you might find yourself chasing after these thoughts without you knowing, and once you realize it, bring your attention back to the breath and realize the ins and outs of your breath.
호흡을 놓친 것을 후회하지도 않고 다시 알아차리려고 애쓰지도 않고 다만 놓치면 다시 하고 다시 할 뿐입니다.
You're not regretting over you losing the focus on the breath, and you're not exerting an effort trying to yank back your attention. You're just shifting it back to the place where you realize your breath.
nose there.
소감이 어떻습니까? 해본 자기 경험을 채팅창에 올려주세요.
Please post your comments in the chat window.
다리가 너무 저려서 쭈뼛소리를 간절히 기다렸습니다.
I was waiting desperately for the clapper sound because my legs ache so much.
Me too.
호흡이 집중이 되지 않고 잡념만 가득했습니다.
I wasn't able to concentrate on my breath, just was distracted instead.
코끝에 의식을 두니 호흡이 선명해집니다.
Then I shifted my attention to the tip of my nose, the breath becomes clearer.
시작엔 호흡이 거칠었는데 눈 뜰 때쯤엔 호흡 덩어리도 몸도 가벼웠습니다.
My breath was rough to begin with. By the time we ended the meditation, my breath and my body and my mind were lighter.
마음이 편안합니다. 생각이 꿈같이 일어나고 알아차리고 돌아왔습니다.
My mind is relaxed at peace. The thoughts came to me like a cover of clouds, but I was able to be mindful and come back to the breath.
편안하게 잘할 수 있어 좋았습니다.
I was able to do well in a peaceful state.
끝나기 10분 전부터 몸에 열이 많이 났습니다.
My body actually heated up about 10 minutes before the end.
머릿속이 시원해졌습니다.
My inside of my head felt refreshed.
호흡에 집중되니 몸이 가벼워집니다.
My body feels lighter. Then I now focus on the breath.
네, 다들 잘 하셨습니다.
Everybody did well.
네, 호흡을 알아차리기도 하고 놓치기도 하고 다리가 아프기도 하고 네, 졸기도 하고 다 명상을 했기 때문에 일어나는 현상입니다.
Again, focusing the breath, losing the focus on the breath, your legs aching, feeling drowsy. All these are things happening to you because you are trying to do meditation.
네, 다음 주에 뵙겠습니다.
I'll see you again next week.
Any sharing or questions before we finish? Okay. See you all again soon. Take care.